you. You think listen up! What's my name? What's my name? My other name. What do you call me? I am your father. From now on, you will call me your father. Shut up! You will call me your father. What is my name, huh? What do I want you to call it? What? Say it, I want to hear it. That's it. Yes, say it again. Say it again. Yeah, that's right.
Excuse me, Seth Rich with the DNC. I think several of you have spoken about provisional ballots and rejected ballots. I guess we've looked at, as an outside practitioner with a vested interest in training our voters, how do we get better access to data that tells us why ballots are rejected, why ballots are cast as provisional, so that we can analyze that and then develop better training guides?
Can one of the election officials speak to any work you've done with either the parties or other groups on that type of information?
Yeah, so from Denver's perspective, one thing that we do, and we do this for sort of the parties or any candidates that are involved in any election, we have a secure FTP site, and we post basically who's voted and sort of the status. And so if they have a rejected ballot, whether it's signature discrepancy or unsigned ballot, or maybe they had an undeliverable ballot, all that data is posted daily during the election. And then we actually also proactively send out, because we have to notify the voters if there is some sort of issue with their mail ballot. We also give the parties and the campaigns the exact letter that we send to the voter, so then when they do their follow-up and they contact the voter, they have exactly the same wording that we send out, so there's not confusion. So we've found that actually giving more information and being more upfront with that data with the entities has been much more effective for everybody involved, instead of sort of holding it back. So we've tried to put it out there. The provisional ballots have significantly declined in Colorado. I put up some data earlier that shows that. And most of the reason for that is the voter registration modernization that we did, where we eliminated the precinct registration deadline, and now have same-day registration. So we've really taken care of most of the reasons that voters would vote a provisional. The other reasons are because they didn't bring the ID and it's election day and they don't want to go get it, so they vote a provisional. Or maybe they moved into Colorado after the state residency requirement, so potentially they might vote one there. So there's very few reasons now why someone would even vote a provisional in Colorado, and if it does get rejected, it could be maybe they haven't gotten off their felony status yet, or one of the other kind of pretty straightforward reasons. So I think sharing that data, analyzing that data, and involving the parties and sort of the entities that have an interest in that to get them that data, and then talking about it collectively and working together on training and communication tools for doing that are all very important.
The only thing I would add is the key to that, our states need to have a statewide voter database so that we can code those. And I know in Utah, as we were transitioning through that, and pieces of that were missing because we hadn't fully understood how to utilize that. Not every county was inputting that the same way. And EVES was a good way to showcase that so that we could make that change. So we've got to make sure that all of the states, as they implement that, teach their counties how to report those similarly, and it makes it, like Amber said, it becomes a very automated process.
The other alarm going off in my head is if we have a common data format for these voter registration systems in other places, it's very easily reportable and collected in that way as well.
I think the one difficult thing on that is every state codes provisionals differently. So like Colorado, we have, it's not just accept and reject. There's a whole list, and that's going to change by state. And so I think getting to a common format for that too is going to help just from a national perspective, you know, communicate that information effectively and provide better training. If that's possible, if states could collaborate and come up with common ways of that being reported, it would be very helpful.
That's the end of our time. I want to sincerely thank all of you for sharing the information. There's actually, Pew just released the panel performance index, and this panel actually scored #1. So congratulations to all of you. And it's lunchtime. It's lunchtime. So thank you all. We'll be back in 1 hour. 1 hour.
Don't you? You think listen up! What's my name? What's my name? My other name. What do you call me? I am your father. From now on, you will call me your father. Shut up! You will call me your father. What is my name, huh? What do I want you to call it? What? Say it, I want to hear it. That's it. Yes, say it again. Say it again. Yeah, that's right.
Excuse me, Seth Rich with the DNC. I think several of you have spoken about provisional ballots and rejected ballots. I guess we've looked at, as an outside practitioner with a vested interest in training our voters, how do we get better access to data that tells us why ballots are rejected, why ballots are cast as provisional?
D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser is hoping to see more surveillance cameras across the district. She's started to expand a program for safety, and News 4's Mark Seagraves is live in the Bloomingdale neighborhood with more on that. Bloomingdale neighborhood, Mark.
Yeah, Jim, this is one of the neighborhoods where people have taken advantage of that grant almost the most. You can see cameras all over the neighborhood. Take a look at this sign on this property, protected by video surveillance. That sign says it all. Today, Mayor Bowser came here to Bloomingdale to talk to...
Okay, and I'll do that, but just to speak briefly about the crime cameras that are on the corners, I believe currently the proposals by the mayor's office specifies body cameras, so it doesn't mention the crime cameras. And then what keeps me up at night is two things. One, the security, the potential for leaks on YouTube and unredacted videos being released, as well as the fact that I am the MPD privacy officer, but I'm pretty much overseeing the death of privacy in Washington, D.C. And so what lulls me to sleep then is our 90-day retention limit, just the knowledge that unless there is a reason for this video to be saved, it will be deleted after 90 days. And those two things are what I think about body cameras.
Okay.
I just wanted to say a quick thing that I was there when he got shot, and they walked him past me so I could see him and identify him if I knew him in the neighborhood. And the police officer said he didn't even know he was shot. So if it gives you any comfort, I don't think he had any pain physically. So that helps.
I had two neighbors check their cameras between 4 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., which show nobody coming or going on the south side of W Street, or going from First to Flagler, and nobody coming or going on the north side of V Street going from First to Flagler. Alley view along North V also shows no movement. After the shots, I was looking out W Street at North Side and saw nobody run by, and then I ran to the southwest alley side and saw no movement there. So the perpetrators went in one of three directions: toward Second, or down Flagler toward U, or up Flagler toward Adams.
We're just so warmed that you would step forward and try to help us find the murderer of our son and try to find the two that killed him and make the world a safer place. Seth always believed in people helping each other and that the world would be a greater place if more people did, and we are just so happy and from the bottom of our hearts can't say thank you enough for helping us find who killed Seth. Thank you so much.
And so what lulls me to sleep then is our 90-day retention limit, just the knowledge that unless there is a reason for this video to be saved, it will be deleted after 90 days. And those two things are what I think about body cameras.
She started to expand a program for safety, and News 4's Mark Seagraves is live in the Bloomingdale neighborhood with more on that. Bloomingdale neighborhood, Mark.
Yeah, Jim, this is one of the neighborhoods where people have taken advantage of that grant almost the most. You can see cameras.
I grew up right here in D.C. when working class families could afford the American dream of buying a home. Took my first bike ride on this street and had my first bike crash that same day. This city, it's in my blood. It's where my parents proudly sacrificed to educate their children and showed me there's always value and dignity in hard work. Even in my summer job as a DC Tourmobile guy. I went to school, built a career, and bought a small home here. I remember the lessons I learned here about giving back to my community. Because everyone deserves an affordable place to live, everyone deserves an open and honest government, and every kid deserves a safe and free ride to a quality school. That's why I fought to build affordable housing, created a landmark ethics bill, and passed the Kids Ride Free legislation. I'm Muriel Bowser. On November 4th, I need your vote so all 8 wards can have a voice.
We want our police to have the protection of having a film of incidents, and we want the public to know that that film exists so that every interaction we have the ability to hold officials accountable.
Okay, and I'll do that, but just to speak briefly about the crime cameras that are on the corners, I believe currently the proposals by the mayor's office specifies body cameras, so it doesn't mention the crime cameras. And then what keeps me up at night is two things. One, the security, the potential for leaks on YouTube and unredacted videos being released, as well as the fact that I am the MPD privacy officer, but I'm pretty much overseeing the death of privacy in Washington, D.C. And so what lulls me to sleep then is our 90-day retention limit, just the knowledge that unless there is a reason for this video to be saved, it will be deleted after 90 days. And those two things are what I think about body cameras.
Okay.
Liz Lyons, privacy officer for the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. As privacy officer, Liz focuses on technology the MPD deploys for law enforcement needs such as body cameras and CCTV. The MPD is the first police department in the nation to employ a privacy officer. Prior to working for the MPD, Liz worked at the Department of Homeland Security under John Brennan, Privacy Office in the Compliance and Technology groups. Liz was a subject matter expert on privacy issues involving cloud computing and cybersecurity. Before joining DHS, Liz was an attorney in San Francisco, California and served in the Peace Corps in Lithuania. Liz obtained her BA from Georgetown University during the same time period that John Podesta taught courses in technology policy and information privacy. She received her Juris Doctorate from the University of San Francisco, School of Law. During law school, Liz worked as a legal intern at the Electronic Frontier Foundation and spent summer studying the UN-backed Cambodia War Crimes Tribunal. Liz is a member of the Washington, D.C. and California Bar. All of the information checks out as correct as verified by Kevin Flynn. Stop to the MCP fight for the users. Justice for Seth Rich.
Define your meaning of war. To me it's what we do when we're bored. I feel the heat coming off of the blacktop, and it makes me want it more. Because I'm hyped up, out of control. If it's a fight, I'm ready to go. I wouldn't put my money on the other guy. If you know what I know that I know. It's been a long time coming, and the tables turn around. Cause one of us is going, one of us is going down. I'm not running, it's a little different now. Cause one of us is going, one of us is slowing down. Define your meaning fun. To me it's when we're getting it done. I feel the heat coming off of the blacktop, so get ready for another one. Let's take a trip down memory lane. The words circling in my brain. You can treat this like another all the same, but don't cry like a bitch when you feel the pain. It's been a long time coming, and the tables turn around. Cause one of us is going, one of us is going down. I'm not running, it's a little different now. Cause one of us is going, one of us is slowing down. This is hard, ain't worth fighting for, but it's a little place that I can't ignore. With my fist in your face, and your face on the floor. It'll be a long time coming, bet you got the message now. Cause I was never going. Yeah, you're the one that's going down. One of us is going down. I'm not running, it's a little different now. Cause one of us is going, one of us is slowing down. One of us is slowing down. Define your meaning of war. To me it's what we do when we're bored. I feel the heat coming off of the blacktop, and it makes me want it more. Because I'm hyped up, out of control. If it's a fight, I'm ready to go. I wouldn't put my money on the other guy. If you know what I know that I know. It's been a long time coming, and the tables turn around. Cause one of us is going, one of us is going down. I'm not running, it's a little different now. Cause
afternoon, everybody. I am joined by the Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Washington Police Department, Kathy Lanier, the Chief Medical Examiner for the District of Columbia, Dr. Roger Mitchell, the Attorney General for the District of Columbia, Attorney General Carl Racine, as well as the Ward 8 Council member LaRuby May, and members of my public safety team, including the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, as well as the City Administrator for the District of Columbia. Since the beginning of our administration, you've heard me talk about the importance of body-worn cameras and our need to get body-worn cameras for our department. These cameras enhance transparency, increase accountability, and strengthen trust between the community and the police department. And more than that, we've heard demands from the community for body cameras, and we also have heard from the police and that they too demand body cameras. And with the council's unanimous vote today, we will be able to fully employ in the District of Columbia a body-worn camera program that equips 2,800 officers with body-worn cameras by next summer. So we are here today to talk about the release of footage from MPD today of an MPD body-worn camera that I have determined is of significant public interest. This fall, we know that 2 people died in the custody of private security guards in the district, also known as special police officers. Both deaths have been investigated by the NPD and referred to the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. An autopsy is pending on the October death investigation that occurred at a local hospital. And last Friday, our Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Roger Mitchell, released the report related to the November 1st death of Alonzo Smith. The medical examiner determined the cause: sudden cardiac death, complicating acute cocaine toxicity while restrained, with compression of the torso as a contributing factor. In the case of Mr. Smith, the responding Metropolitan Police Department officers were wearing body cameras. The chief will talk to you a little bit more about what the footage shows. So today we are releasing the footage from one of the cameras related to Mr. Smith, and we expect the redactions to be completed on the second camera in the coming days. I have consulted with the United States Attorney, Channing Phillips, the D.C. Attorney General, and the Chairman of the Council. We have notified as well Ward 8 Council Member LaRuby May and the Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Kenyon McDuffie. MPD has also made the video available to Mr. Smith's family. So our approach to the body-worn footage release, especially in cases where the video is not subject to FOIA. According to the rules approved by the council today, this footage would not be subject to FOIA, in that there is an active investigation going on by the U.S. Attorney. However, the district's new rules, new law, confirms that I have the ability to release body-worn camera footage that may be of significant public interest.
So obviously the video that we have does not answer all the questions. It does not answer what happened before MPD arrived on the scene. It only gives a small window of what happened when MPD arrived on the scene and those few moments immediately after until he was transported to the hospital.
Part of the reason why we're here today is that we really do need the public's assistance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon. The mayor has decided to release a video from body-worn camera that shows the Metropolitan Police Department's response to a call for service related to Alonzo Smith. Deciding whether to release a video such as this is always a very difficult decision that requires careful consideration of several factors. Among the most important of these factors are the safety and privacy of the individuals involved, the impact that releasing the video to the public may have on an active investigation or legal proceeding, and the interest of the public in having the video released.
Today, we're here specifically to talk about robberies, and we have seen a modest uptick in robberies across the city, about a 5% uptick in robbery between last year and the year before. Some neighborhoods, though, have experienced more significant increases in robbery. And I want to note some numbers and talk about them in a historical perspective. We had 22% fewer robberies in 2015 than we did in 2007. Okay, I'm going to take a few community questions. Yes, Commissioner.
Madam Mayor, my name is Denise Prep, and I'm an A&C Commissioner. 2 months ago, and this question is for the Department of Justice, I FOIA'd the Department of Justice for prosecution data. A month ago, my residents and I had a bake sale. We raised $2,000 for the FOIA data, but we don't have the prosecution data. So my question to you, the representative from the Department of Justice, is when do you expect to provide us with the prosecution data, including the armed robbery, and is $2,000 enough money to pay for this data? Because if it's not, my residents and I want to know how many more FOIA cakes we need to make to raise the money to get the...
Expand a program for safety, and News 4's Mark Seagraves is live in the Bloomingdale neighborhood with more on that. Bloomingdale neighborhood, Mark.
Yeah, Jim, this is one of the neighborhoods where people have taken advantage of that grant almost the most. You can see cameras all over the neighborhood. Take a look at this sign on this property, protected by video surveillance. That sign says it all. Today, Mayor Bowser came here to Bloomingdale to talk to neighbors and businesses who are already participating in the program and have already received the grants.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, especially for me. I'm not home a lot, so this neighborhood crime has definitely increased.
Take a look at just how much crime there's been in just a 1,500-foot radius of her home so far this year. More than 200 reported crimes, including 25 people robbed at gunpoint.
Good to see you.
Patrice Cleary's neighbor installed 3 cameras, and the grant covered his entire costs. Now, everybody we talked to who's received the grant said, in fact, yes, it was very easy both to install the cameras and to get the money from the D.C. government. In order to do that, you have to install the cameras first, then apply for the grant. Homeowners can get $500. Business owners can get up to $750.
Hey, Mark, if you get the city to pay for your camera, does that mean the city has access to all of a resident's video?
No, and that's a question that a lot of residents ask, and then absolutely not. Now, they say residents can be asked, businesses can be asked by police for that video, just like anyone who has a security camera at their home or business can be asked by police for the footage from that camera, but in no way, shape, or form do they have ownership of that. It is up to them.
We want our police to have the protection of having a film of incidents, and we want the public to know that that film exists, so that every interaction we have the ability to hold officials accountable.
Okay, and I'll do that, but just to speak briefly about the crime cameras that are on the corners, I believe currently the proposals by the mayor's office specifies body cameras, so it doesn't mention the crime cameras. And then what keeps me up at night is 2 things. One, the security, the potential for leaks on YouTube and unredacted videos being released, as well as the fact that I am the MPD privacy officer, but I'm pretty much overseeing the death of privacy in Washington, D.C. And so what lulls me to sleep then is our 90-day retention limit, just the knowledge that unless there is a reason for this video to be saved, it will be deleted after 90 days. And those 2 things are what I think about body cameras. Okay.
More than 2 months since the killing of Seth Rich, the 27-year-old Democratic Committee employee, his girlfriend still wants answers.
Whoever shot the gun was probably doing it out of anger.
Rich apparently was talking to Kelsey Molka on the phone when he was shot in the back and killed July 10th while walking home from a bar.
The officers that arrived actually couldn't believe he passed because he was talking away.
Rich worked for the DNC and was killed shortly before WikiLeaks released damning emails which forced the resignations of several party leaders on the eve of the Democratic convention. Some speculate Rich was...
Okay, because this is interesting, door one.
let's say this were a botched robbery.
Yeah.
Okay? And you have to look at all possibilities,
Absolutely,
right?
sure.
So police officers, we get the call, shot spotter, sounds of gunshots, 21st and Flagler, I need a unit. This is what the dispatcher says, okay?
Sure.
So you got units responding, okay? I'm going dispatcher, 318, I'm going, whatever the number is, right? So the officers get on the scene. If we see that, and this is any murder investigation, I'm not just talking about this particular case, but this is the way it works, right? You get on the scene, your victim is still alive and talking, right? The first thing you ask that victim as a uniformed officer, we train officers this, who shot you? Who shot you? Chicago, with the number of shootings they have, I guarantee you every time a cop rolls up on the scene, that's the first thing you want to ask that victim, because you don't know if that victim's going to die or not.
Right.
Who shot you, man? This is what you say.
That could be solving the crime right there.
Well, that's why you ask,
Yeah.
you know? Or, if you don't find out who shot you, what did they look like?
Right.
So we can give what we call a lookout.
Right.
Okay? This is protocol for any shooting situation. So the first unit's on the scene, get that lookout, and you broadcast it over the air. I want to know in this investigation, I want a copy of the audible transmission from the lookout. They had to have a lookout.
Have you communicated with any of the responding officers?
No.
You haven't? And obviously no one's had access to the body cam footage or anything like that.
No, that's right.
So the OUC dispatchers will actually ask our officers when they respond to a call whether or not they have their camera activated, and the officer's required to reply. And when the mayor was talking to the officer upstairs, he said that was very helpful with the new technology.
Right.
And you know what I mean? You can look in door number 1, look in door number 2 all you want. Don't look in door number 3. Well, wait a minute. What's behind door number 3?
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
Sure. Yes.
And that's where we stopped.
I've got a little challenge for you, Sark. A new recruit.
What kind of program is he?
It's not any kind of program, Sark.
Name's Flynn. I'm what you guys call a user. Users wrote us. The user even wrote you.
I'd like to go against you and see what you are made of.
Where am I?
Your guest, the Master Control program. Gonna make you play video games.
I play video games better than anybody. Come on, big fella, let's see what you got. You'll regret this. Who's that guy?
That's TRON. He fights for the universe.
Oh man, this isn't happening. It only thinks it's happening.
The guy was asking about you. Something different about him. You are a user. And everything you've done has been according to a plan.
Once more the games until it dies playing.
Now for some real user power. I don't know how you survived. There's a Terminator. On the other side of the screen, it all looks so easy.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. So welcome to the room of people who have rooms of people that they love one day docked away. Just because we check the guns at the door doesn't mean our brains will change from hand grenades. You love another psychopath sitting next to you. You love another murderer sitting next to you. You think I'd get here sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any
with outsiders very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell. Yeah, trust issues not to mention. They say they can smell your intentions. You laughing on the freak show sitting next to you. You laugh some weird people sitting next to you. You think how did I get here sitting next to you? But after all I've said, please don't forget.
Right now, there's no suspect. Nobody knows a motive. There's no reason why this man was gunned down. It's basically just somebody who is walking late on Sunday night, and for no reason at all. Apparently, there may have been an attempt to rob him, but that isn't clear. Just a terrible situation. There's the.
Everyone knows about it. From the Queen of England to the hounds of hell. And if I catch it coming back my way, I'm gonna serve it to you. And that ain't what you want to hear, but that's what I'll do. And the feeling coming from my bones says find a home.
His murder continues to draw national attention. The reward for information leading to an arrest in his case now totals over $500,000, with new sponsors still coming forward. We also want to remind our viewers that there's still a petition at the White House website to assign a special prosecutor to this case. That petition currently has over 60,000 signatures and is set to expire this Sunday. One America's Pearson Sharp has the latest on the case.
Despite a boycott of the media as fake news and condemnation from politicians on the left, new information keeps emerging about the murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich. Seth was killed by unknown attackers about a block and a half from his home in the early hours of July 10th, 2016. But given his apparent connections to WikiLeaks, many suspect there's more to his murder than a simple mugging gone wrong. Taken a year before his death, this is footage from August of 2015 as Rich speaks before a panel of officials during the Election Data Summit in Washington, D.C. Seth was the Voter Expansion Data Director of the DNC and raised questions of ballot integrity with the panel.
I think several of you have spoken about provisional ballots and rejected ballots. I guess we've looked at, as an outside practitioner with a vested interest in training our voters, how do we get better access to data that tells us why ballots are rejected, why ballots are cast as provisional, so that we can analyze that and then develop better training guides?
Provisional ballots are used when a voter's eligibility comes into question, such as when a voter refuses to show a photo ID. Following the leak that the DNC was conspiring against Bernie Sanders, it seems Rich may have had grounds to worry. But Seth's early concerns about ballot integrity aren't the only unusual piece of information. Another video has surfaced revealing new details about the night of his murder. Mark Mueller, one of Seth's neighbors, was apparently on the scene after Rich was shot and is even included in the police report. Mueller spoke at a neighborhood vigil, telling a gathered crowd that he had seen the police carry Seth away, claiming they told him that Seth wasn't even aware he'd been shot.
I just wanted to say a quick thing that I was there when he got shot, and they walked in past me so I could see him and identify him, which I knew him in the neighborhood. And the police officer said he didn't even know he was shot. So if it gives him any comfort, I don't think he had any pain physically. So that helps.
Mueller was also interviewed following the incident, saying that he'd heard gunshots and noted the time was 4:19 a.m. However, he says he's skeptical the shooting was anything more than a robbery.
Do you think this could be a robbery gone bad?
Yeah, I think this is probably the first time when the victim said no.
Mueller works for the government at the National Institutes of Health and visited the White House a number of times before the night Seth Rich was murdered. In the wake of the attack, he took to Twitter and announced an investigation, saying anyone who questioned Seth's murder was more than a mugging was, quote, conspiracy right-wing nut jobs. Mueller's story about the night of the attacks is confirmed by previous reports, which stated that Seth was alive and conscious when police arrived and was even talking to paramedics. While his conversation would likely have been captured by the body cameras several police were wearing, the Metropolitan Police Department still won't confirm if that footage exists. That leads us to Liz Lyons, the privacy officer for the NPD in Washington, the first such officer in the nation and in a position she created when she joined. Lyons is in charge of technology used by the police officers, including their body cameras and CCTV. She previously worked at the Department of Homeland Security and studied at Georgetown University at the same time that John Podesta was a professor there. Lyons would be responsible for releasing or withholding the footage from the body cameras and would likely be in charge of Seth Rich's laptop as well. However, speaking at a Museum Institute forum in September of 2015, she explained that leaked body camera footage was one of her biggest fears.
What keeps me up at night is two things. One, the security, the potential for leaks on YouTube and unredacted videos being released, as well as the fact that I am the MPD privacy officer, but I am pretty much overseeing the death of privacy in Washington, D.C. And so what lulls me to sleep then is our 90-day retention limit, just the knowledge that unless there's a reason for this video to be saved, it will be deleted after 90 days. And those two things are what I think about body cameras.
Lyons made several trips to the White House in June and July of 2016, once 2 weeks before Seth Rich's shooting, and again just 2 days after he was killed. The purpose of her trips isn't clear, but what is clear is that the footage from the shooting has never been released. That's despite D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser including over $5 million in her 2016 budget for police body cameras. Under Bowser's then new proposal, she backtracked on her fierce opposition to making videos public, aiming to release more body camera footage than any other major city in the nation. In 2015, Bowser even ordered Police Chief Kathy Lanyard to release footage in the case of 27-year-old Alonzo Smith, whose death at the hands of private security guards was ruled a murder. Chief Lanyard stated that by releasing the video, they were proving they had nothing to hide. So why not in the case of Seth Rich? So far, the FBI and DC police are refusing to comment on the case, and the mainstream media claim anyone pursuing the investigation is simply politically motivated. However, as more and more evidence continues to mount, the only conspiracy seems to be why those exposed in the DNC email leaks are trying so hard to keep the investigation quiet. Pearson Sharp.
Yes. There must be a problem.
Okay, so who did he talk to that night? I said, can we get access to his records, his AT&T records, and just get a copy of the numbers that, that he dialed that night or that dialed him that night? No, we can't. So All right, so he wasn't obviously, literally, he was pushing back on this whole idea of checking cell phones. Seth went to a party at 10 o'clock that night of his death, at 10 o'clock p.m., before he went to the bar where he was at, Joe Capone's bar. And he was there with some friends. This is just a good example as to the pushback I got from Aaron. Well, Kelsey told me about the party. Well, I hadn't heard about the party from anyone else. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to find out who was at that party and whether or not the police department interviewed people at that who was at that party to maybe get some clues, right? And I mentioned it to Aaron, and to Aaron. I said, Aaron, I understand Seth went to a party. He said, yes. I said, well, can I get the names of the person or people that gave that party so I can go talk to them? What do you need to talk to them about? Seth died at 4 a.m. I said, I know, but I'm thinking it could have been someone at the party. Maybe he had an interaction with, guy follows him. You know how it goes. So he goes, no, that didn't happen.
He may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
It appears as if he was targeted.
27-year-old Seth Rich, a DNC staffer, shot in the back.
Shot multiple times.
As a 27-year-old, I works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered.
That was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
The editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks suggesting Seth Rich may have become a target after being accused of leaking DNC emails, which led to the resignation of its chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Seth was shot at 4:19 in the morning, just 2 minutes after hanging up with his girlfriend, Kelsey.
We were on the phone, kind of just wrapping up our conversation. He had kind of told me that he was getting close to his house. There really are no words that can accurately express how devastating and horrific it is to bury someone that you love.
There was no sign of trouble in his voice that terrible morning.
You never thought that there was any trouble?
I wasn't alarmed, no.
Investigators tell Crime Watch Daily in the early morning hours of July 10th, Seth was walking home. He was only about a block and a half away when he was gunned down right here and shot in the back.
But still alive. While police can't confirm if there was a struggle before Seth's murder, everyone seems to agree
there's no reason why Seth should be in the ground right now.
Heartbreaking news to Kelsey. She was just on the phone with him, and in a split second, he's gone. Still reeling from Seth's death, Kelsey is horrified to discover that the story of a conspiracy theory is swirling around Seth's death.
There's no reason why Seth should be in the ground right now.